Hello students, myself Professor S.J. Raymond from Department of Civil Engineering, KLS VDIT, Halia. Students, in the last class we have discussed about the two topics, that is materials of sewer as well as shape of sewers. Today we will discuss about another topic, that is laying and testing of sewers. These topics are very important in sanitary engineering and in municipal services and also in the design of STP, that is sewage treatment plant. Now come to the laying of sewer. The construction of sewer consists of the following works. First among them is marking center lines for sewers. Second one is excavation of trenches. Third one is checking the gradient. Fourth one is preparation of bedding. Fifth one is laying of sewers. Sixth one is jointing. And last but not least, that is backfilling. So now we'll discuss in brief about all these items here. So that is, first one is marking center line of sewer. The center line of a sewer are marked on the streets and roads from the plants starting from the lowest point or outfall of the main proceedings upwards. The setting out of work is done by means of chain and theodolite or compass. For checking the center line during the construction, generally wooden pegs or steel spikes are driven at 10-meter intervals on a line parallel to the center while laying sewers. They will not disturb them. For checking the levels of sewer pipes and their alignment, temporary benchmarks are established at 200 to 400 meter intervals. The reduced level, that is RLs, of these benchmarks should be calculated with respect to GTS benchmarks. On the center line position of sewer, appurtenances are also marked. After making, you come to the second item, that is excavation of trenches. So after marking the layout of the sewer lines on the ground, the first step is the removal of pavement, which starts from the lower end of the sewer and proceeds upwards. Pickaxes, spade or pneumatic drills can be used in case of removing concrete pavements. After removing pavements, the excavation of trenches is done manually or using machinery. The width of the trench depends upon the dia of sewer and depth of sewer lying below the ground level. The width of sewer line is 15 centimeter more than external diameter of sewer for easiness in lowering and adjusting the sewer pipe. The minimum trench width of 60 to 100 centimeter is necessary for conveniently laying and jointing of even very small size sewers. The excavation of trench sites requires shoring and shuttering, and also dewatering is done by gravity method or pumping method. Now the third item is preparation of bedding. Trenches are excavated with proper grade so that sewage may flow in sewer due to gravitational flow only. The center line of sewer and their grades are transferred from the ground by means of site rail and boning rod. When a sewer has to be laid in a soil underground stratum or in a reclaimed land, the trench shall be excavated deeper than what it is ordinarily required trench bottom or rock. In the case of very bad soil, the trench bottom shall be filled in with cement concrete or appropriate grade. In areas subject to subsidence, the pipe sewer shall be laid on a timber platform or concrete cradle supported on piles. In the case of cast in situ sewer and RCC section with reinforcement, bearing capacity is encountered and soil stabilization shall be done either by rubber, concrete or wooden grip. Now the next step is laying. Smaller size pipes can be laid by the pipe layers directly by hand only, but heavier and large size pipes are lowered in the trenches by passing ropes around them and supporting the hawk. It is the common practice to lay the pipes with their socket end upgrade for easiness in jointing. After lowering the pipes, these are brought near and spigot end of one pipe is placed in the socketed end of the other. After properly placing and arranging the pipes, they are suitably joined. The joints are carefully cured for sufficient time. Now next step is jointing of sewers. The CI pipes, that is cast iron pipes, shall be examined for line and level, and the space left in the socket shall be filled in by pouring molten pig lead or best quality as for IS 782 and IS 3114. For concrete pipes, the collars shall be placed symmetrically over the end of two pipes, and the annual space between the inside of the collar and the outside of the pipe shall be filled with hemp yarn soaked in tar or cement slurry, tapped with just sufficient quantity of water to have consistency of semi-dry condition, well packed and thoroughly rammed with caulking tools, and then filled with cement mortar of proportion 1:2. The joint shall be finished off with a filler sloping at 45 degrees to the surface of the pipe and cured for 24 hours. Any plastic solutions or cement mortar that may have squeezed in the pipe shall be removed to leave the inside of the pipe perfectly clean. For stoneware pipes, all the joints shall be caulked with tarred gasket in one length for each joint and sufficiently long to entirely surround the spigot end of the pipe. The gasket shall then be filled with 1:2 proportion cement sand mortar in a semi-dry condition, and a fillet shall be formed round the joint with trowel, forming an angle 45 degree with the barrel of the pipe as per IS 4217. Rubber gasket may also be used for jointing. Now, following procedure is adopted for laying of a new sewer. The borings or trial holes are dug along the proposed sewer line to ascertain the nature of ground. This may not be always essential because of the fact that in many cases the nature of soil is generally known or ascertained beforehand. From the longitudinal section of the sewer line, the position of manholes are studied and located on the ground. It is the general practice to lay sewer line between two manholes at a time. The center line pegs of the sewer line are driven at a distance of every 7.5 meter or 15 meter. This distance may be adjusted as per convenience. The center line of the sewer line should be properly maintained. Following are the two methods which are employed for this purpose. In the first method, a line parallel to the sewer is marked on one side. This is known as an offset line, and it is usually marked at a distance of d, which is about one half the trench width plus 600 mm as shown in following figure. The other side is used to dump the excavated material. So this is the center line of sewer, as well as space for dumping the excavated soil, and also you can see the pegs, and The line joining these pegs is called as offset line. The offset line should be drawn on that side of the trench which is not likely to be disturbed during the process of excavation of the trench. The temporary benchmarks at the intervals of about 200 meter to 300 meter should also be established along the offset line by carrying the levels from a permanent benchmark. The offset line helps in locating the sewer center line when excavation is carried out to lay sewers. In the second method, the two vertical posts are driven into the ground at a known distance from the center line peg. One horizontal rail, known as the side rail, is fixed between these posts at a convenient height from the ground level as shown in figure below. So these are the two pegs which are driven into the ground, and it also shows the proposed trench for sewer. And vertical line is nothing but the center line of peg. The first method is adopted for short duration of time, mainly to avoid inconvenience to traffic when excavation of trench is going on. The second method is to be adopted in all cases for taking the levels of inward of proposed sewer line. The modified levels of invert at each side rail are given, and these are marked on the side rail. These levels may be marked by fixing nails on side rails, or the top of side rails may be adjusted to the modified invert levels of sewer line. The modified levels of invert are obtained by adding a suitable vertical length to the invert levels mentioned on the longitudinal section. Thus, an imaginary line parallel to the proposed sewer line is obtained on the ground. The excavation of trench for laying the sewer line is started. The timbering to protect the sides of trench is provided if necessary. If water is met with during excavation, it is removed by any suitable method of dewatering. The bedding layers are not required in case of rocky or hard soil, but for soft soils, the sewer is supported on layers of concrete as shown in figure 2120 and figure 2121. Figure 2120 shows the normal method of providing bedding to the sewers, and figure 2121 shows the bedding of sewers in soft soils. This, you can go through the figures 2120 here, where the bedding concrete is provided, and bedding, that is first figure 2120 shows the bedding of sewers, which is a normal method, and here for circular pipes, circular sewers, bedding of sewers in soft soil, the concrete is surrounded by the pipe like this, that is to avoid the misplacing of the pipes. The sewers are now laid in the trench, or if they are to be constructed at site, the process of construction of sewer is started. In order to check up the invert levels of sewers, the boning rod or traveler is used. The boning rod consists of crosshead at top and shoe at the bottom as shown in figure 2122. So it is a traveler or boning rod here, that is to check the verticality of the trench. This is the plan of trench for sewers, that is figure 2123 here. Now, the length of the boning rod is adjusted to the suitable vertical length mentioned in step 5. For working out the modified invert levels, a string or cord showing the center line of sewer is fixed between two side rails as shown in figure 21-23. The boning rod is placed with its shoe touching the invert of sewer. The verticality of boning rod is checked by hanging a plumb bob from the top. If the top of boning rod is touching the string or cord, the sewer is laid at proper gradient. But if it remains above below the string, the excavation or filling is carried out respectively so as to bring the top of boning rod in level with string. Now, after placing the sewer lines can be tested like this. The test for water tightness of joints is then carried out. A length of sewer line between two manholes is taken and the lower end of the sewer line is provided with a plug, that is as shown in figure 21-24. In the manhole at the upper end of sewer line, the water is filled in and it is allowed to flow through the sewer line. This is the figure of 21-24. The depth of water in the manhole is maintained at about 1.50. The sewer line is watched by moving along the trench and the joints which have sweated are repaired. So this is how we can lay and test the sewer lines. Thank you, students.